So, are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So thank you, Jose, for the very flattering introduction. I'm blushing. I'm gonna say just a few words about what we are
Voy a
going to
contarles muy brevemente de qué les voy a hablar
the,
y ya entraremos en más.
to the subject. So we are a company, Global Partners, that specializes in developing the ability to leverage the relationship, to strengthen the relationship between the business model between the customer and the supplier. We really believe that, especially in the digital revolution that we are living now with automation and artificial intelligence, differentiation will come not anymore from manufacturing, but from humans, mainly from service, from those non-cognitive skills that will make the human being really connecting with other human beings. So that gives service organization an incredible power for differentiation. And what I would like to talk to you about today is on that ability to unleash the revenue generating power of a service model that is outcome based. And when we say outcome based, is customer outcome based. So we look at the success of the customer. My success is, Mr. Customer, your success, and I'm going to fight for it. Of course, you'll be able to contact me. I'll leave this on the screen later on. I want to take you on a journey, and I want to talk to you about this company you may have heard of called Soba. So they're not noodle company, okay? They're IT company. Imagine that was thriving in the 90s, early 90s. They're doing both servers and software, and they have a huge install base. As you can imagine, it's a Japanese company. And in the late 90s, business, they were not necessarily on the internet at the time. So in the late 90s, if you could add .com to your name, then your valuation would skyrocket. And they didn't really got the internet wave. They didn't really serve the internet wave. And what happened is that their service-based revenue, even though being extremely profitable, were by far not compensating the progressive drop of the revenue coming from manufacturing and from selling equipment. When the 2000 crisis hit, they completely went underwater. Things were going from bad to worse. Revenue was plummeting. Profit were really going down to zero. And there was a joke inside Soba, a bad joke among employees, that were saying, well, companies doing so bad. And now we may find it funny now, but at the time inside the company, it was not funny at all, because that was a renowned company. That was a company you could be proud of working for. And by the early 2000s, it was close to bankruptcy. Now, luckily, they had this VP of service operation, who was carefully monitoring business and look at where the little profitability was coming from. What was the biggest contribution margin element in their business model? And there was no doubt that the biggest contribution margin stream of revenue was coming from service contract. And he said, okay, well, last chance. We need to understand why a few people, and that was a minority of people, just a few people were bringing 80% of those high profit service contracts and how they were doing it. And he started interviewing them. He picked a few, and what he discovered was pretty interesting. He discovered that these people had three major capabilities. The first, and probably the most important, which was common to all these three people, was the ability to know the customer in depth. Then know the supplier in depth. And paramount of it, ability to establish a relationship with the customer that we will call a TBP, or a trusted business partner relationship. And I said that these three people, it's like a Venn diagram. Imagine that these people had these three capabilities. This small group of people had these three capabilities. And he scratched and said, what are exactly these capabilities about? And he went on, the first one. And that is out of a number of interviews. Trusted business partner relationship is the ability to fight for the customer's outcome and really be completely customer focused, completely customer centric. Now, this is easier said than done. It means that the customer doesn't perceive you as a supplier, they perceive you as a member of their team. You're insightful, you are proactive, and at times, you're also challenging. You can push back. Now, this is the key thing. Pushing back and frustrating the customer, everybody can do it. Well, these guys, they could push back and be thanked by the customer for pushing back. Now, that is a skill. They didn't really know how they did that, but they were doing it, okay? So that was really like a aha moment for this VP of operation, service operation, that said, well, that is precious. Let's dig deeper. Dig deeper and discover, well, not only you managed to establish that relationship, and that was at the individual level, okay? So with your interface, not only you managed to establish that relationship, but on top of that, you know the customer pretty well. Not only the person in front of you, you understand the business model of the customer. You understand how he is making money. You understand what are his constraints. You understand weaknesses, strengths, and you understand how he positions in its own market. You can adopt his vocabulary and you know what it means, you know, what is behind it. You can really fight for his success, for his final outcome. And say, well, these guys are pretty interesting. Ah. Now, what do you guys know about what we can offer? Guess what? The successful one had also that knowledge. They know who was valuable in their own company, who was a resource, who was a connector, you know, in the theory of network, who was a connector. They know the product, the services, the expertise. They know all kind of capabilities that the company could offer beyond even the product line they were offering, okay? And Soba was pretty large company, so there were a lot of product line, but they could even, for example, reference someone because he was a guru in a given domain, and it could help the customer for free to address a problem by just referencing someone from another department. That was also a unique capability. And he said, oh, that's interesting. So this VP of service operations said, these are my savior. How many of these people do I have in my company? If I can expand that population, I might have a chance to turn the company around. So that was the key question for him. Understanding who were his people, because these people could hold the secret for an outcome-based service revenue stream. And you look at that. How many people can I have in my company that could hold outcome-based conversation with the customer. And discovered 3 major populations: customer service, well, that was an easy guess, service sales, and it discovered project management. Oh, interesting. Now, let's filter them and see who among them have the 3 skills, okay? Who have all what I need to please the customer and have this kind of customer conversation. So he started with trusted business partner relationship, because he said, well, that is probably the most difficult asset in this set of skills. Okay. Then he said, well, how many people in customer service, service sales, and project manager have it? And he found out that in his company, it was pretty typical. 60% of customer service had that kind of relationship, 40% of service sales, 40% of project management. Now, no wonder customer service, after all, they are in contact with the customer every other day, especially depending on the product. If it's a big product, maybe more often. If it's a small product, a small piece of software that doesn't require a lot of maintenance, maybe less. But in average, 60% of this group had that opportunity to have this kind of relationship. Then I said, okay, great. Now, I love the idea of you having a relationship one-to-one that is a trusted business partner relationship, but how much do you know about the customer company? I look at that and I said, oh, okay, who is eating high is project management. So among the group of those who had trusted business partnership, half of them in project management had an intrinsic knowledge of the customer business models. No wonder, because they are in charge of, handling with the logistics, integration of their product into the systems of the customer. They need to understand the customer inside out. Service sales also not bad. 40% of those who had this kind of relationship had the good knowledge of the customer, but only 20% of the customer service, and that's not surprising. After all, the service engineer go in, repair, do the maintenance, and then go out. He may have a good relationship with his interface, but he doesn't really mind about understanding the whole picture. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. Then now, among you guys, how many people are knowing their own company in depth and their capabilities? And here is what he found out. Well, I said, well, the one that were the most knowledgeable, again, was project management, program management, service sales. 50% of the one that already had the 2 first skills were knowledgeable about their own capabilities. But the problem of service sales is that they were very knowledgeable about their line of product, but they didn't know nothing about the other line of product, as a typical thing of salespeople. Customer service, even less. They know not even the line of product, they know their product, and they know how to service their product, but that's about it. Okay, let's do the math. How many people do I have in the company that have the ability to have that conversation? So I compute. So he started computing the number, and this is what he discovered. He said, well, 60%, 20% of 60%, 20% of 20% of 60%, 2.4% of my customer service base is interesting. 8% of my service base is interesting, and 12% of my project management base is interesting. They have those capabilities. Now, how many people do I have in my company? And then I look at the population, and this is where it clicked. It says, well, yes, 12% of these guys, 8% of these guys, but on a much smaller base compared to the service population, which is usually growing with the install base. So you have a lot of equipment or software installed, then you have a big customer service base. That's usually how it works. So I said, okay, so how many people is that representing? Oh, okay, so still, even if the least performing one...
Así que aunque en atención al cliente son los que peor resultado tenían mucho más trabajadores, así que tenían más gente con las 3 habilidades, con las 3 capacidades. Así que tendría 20.
This kind of conversation. Can I tweak the percentage a little bit? Yes, I can. Now see, and that gives you an idea of the impact if a company like Soba decide to pay attention to the customer service population. And I said, well, instead of just asking them to go to the customer, do the maintenance, and come back, I give them a little bit more of awareness and develop their customer focused skill set. You know, um, establish, pushing, leveraging that trusted business partner relationship, which they have naturally, to dig deeper, understand what the customer context is, uh, adding value here and there because now I know a little bit more about my capabilities and I can help the customer. Look at the impact by just increasing this percentage of people. Here, it shifts from 2.4 to 9.4, which is almost quadrupling the number of people available. All of a sudden, hey, I'm going from 24 to 96. I'm overshadowing way by far the other two population. And of course, I'm not saying you should not have your service people that keep bringing in contract, but imagine that now these 8 people can leverage this army of outcome-based conversationer with the customer. What would be the impact? And that was the secret. Okay, that was the secret for a company like Soba. It can be the secret for many other companies. Fundamentally, Soba developed and overcome the dot-com crisis of the 2000 and became, of course, a successful company of service outcome-based achiever. Now you understand, I just invented the name of the company and the company does not exist, but it is based on our experience and actually crossing data from several of our customer and our cases with customers that show you, in short, that diverting the focus on a service population to train them in being more customer-centric, more customer-focused, is actually the key to embrace what the new normal is offering us, which is actually a digital area and a service economy. Today, most companies that have a service population are under-leveraging it. Now, the question you may want to ask is, hey, yes, easier said than done. Now, how do I train these people? How do I, what are the skills that are going to make them be, for example, feeling part, make the customer feeling part that the supplier is not just a simple supplier? How do you develop that trusted business partnership kind of a relationship? How do you develop this knowledge? Well, it's by shifting 3 little elements that I'm putting for you on the screen here. Now, if you are able to shift even slightly the skill set of your people in service, technical people, I'm talking mainly about people that have engineering mindset, that have that relationship probably, and at least this surface of contact, from reactive to proactive, from dealing with the technical issue to understanding the complete issue. So it means going beyond the customer request and shifting from yes to everything to a balanced outcome. And a balanced outcome is getting to balanced outcome is a skill. All right, it's what I was saying before. People who have that skill are able to push back and be thanked because they push back. Teach, or at least educate the customer and be appreciated for that, not looking arrogant. If we look at this ability to be remembered. Because if I play on this area, and if I'm able to, instead of reacting to customer requests, if I'm able to come forward proactively, what I'm doing, I am surprising you. If I surprise you, I create what we call an emotional response. If I create an emotional response, I create memory. Now, in differentiation, in marketing, differentiation is memory. That's a very, very interesting equivalence. In marketing terms, differentiation comes down to being remembered. And memory is a function of a chemical reaction that is a produce of a surprise or an emotional burst. Proactivity create memory. So, and that proactivity is not just a word in the sky, it's something that you can construct. So you can develop in your people the ability to be systematically proactive. And the beauty of proactivity is that you don't need to be proactive every day, because you're surprising people, you're surprising the customer. You need to be proactive every month. So you need to be proactive maybe 12 times a year. Maybe even if you're proactive twice, once every 2 months is good enough, because the customer will be surprised and will remember you. So that is the strength of those three shifts that will position a technical customer service professional into someone that is perceived as a member of the customer team and is perceived as someone that can be trusted. Okay, so this is what I wanted to share with you. I am leaving purposely a few minutes toward the end, maybe for questions. And of course, you feel free to contact me. I'm leaving this on the screen if you have additional questions or if you want to know more. I hope you like the story of Soba.
Thanks, Fab. Yeah, there is is more of precision, I think, than a question. Someone is saying it's not about making the service, the technicians, to become salespeople.
Very good point. Very good point. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Service people are proud technicians.
Mm.
There's no way if you come up to them and tell them we're going to transform you in service people, you're going to have a allergic reaction.
Yep.
Okay, anaphylactic shock. So no. As you can see here, you don't see any sales vocabulary. The the trick consists in being soft and equipping your service population with non-cognitive skills, which are displayed here, with non-cognitive skills that help them connect with their customer in a way that will benefit them. Why? Very simple. Take an example, and technical people will understand that. If you deal with the technical issue only, but you don't address the root cause of the technical issue will come back all the time. So you need to be able to understand what lies behind this request, especially if the request is made with insistence, if the request is made with a certain tone, if the request is made with an agenda. Is the customer really wanting to improve the performance or receive 3 reports a week? Or is the customer wanting to demonstrate to his manager that he is a hard worker? What is the real issue? Now, if you address the first one and provide 3 reports a week, which will take you 3 hours or 4 hours, this request will come back again, and again. Now, if you understand that the real issue is making sure that your interface want to be perceived as a hardworking individual in his own company, well, you're working on a different problem. And then you're going to make him successful. You're going to fight for it. And once he is going to be perceived as a hard worker, which is a result of a number of things that you can discuss. If you have a trusted business partner relationship, you can discuss the things. You can help him position properly towards his management. Why not? In that case, your technical issue will not come back because you have addressed something that is deeper. Now, there's nothing salesy around that. It's just psychology, and technical people are very happy to learn that. They are actually very thirsty because that's not in their technical curriculum. University, they don't teach that. Same thing with proactiveness, same thing with balanced outcome. How many times we see people that are overwhelmed with requests, and actually they discover that actually they only get there because they dig their hole by trying to please the customer. It doesn't come from a bad intention. They heard customer is always right. Well, that is a dead end. If you follow that that approach, it's a dead end, because there is a point where you cannot work over time forever. Your machine or your piece of software cannot do performance over a certain level. So there is a moment where you have to say no to the customer. This request is not physically possible to accept. And this is when you frustrate the customer. If you don't know how to manage expectations. Technical people will love to understand how to manage expectation. Managing expectation, what is that? Is, making sure that your customer is happy every time because you recognize the value of what you bring. Now, value recognition is the key of delivering balanced outcome. Yeah, so it's not about sales, definitely. Not transforming technical people in sales. Long answer, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's perfect. I mean, it was 30 seconds more. I mean, we are not German, if you let me do that joke. Fabrizio, very, very much thank you for your time, and well, keep in touch, okay?
Thank you very much, and good continuation.